Hello and welcome to another exclusive Good e-reader video. This is Nick.
And this is Marcus.
Today we have a comparison battle that we're going to put head-to-head, two tablets on an array of tests to see who comes out the victor.
We have at first, dun 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 dun, the Apple iPad.
And on my side we have the Motorola Xoom with an X.
These are pretty well considered the two leading edge tablets, although the iPad 2 is coming out in a few weeks, and we will be battling the iPad and iPad 2 head-to-head, as well as more head-to-head videos. This is the current generation in the here and now. These are considered two of the best tablets, and we're going to put them through, as Nick said, a battery of tests to see which one comes out at top. Now, this is the iPad Wi-Fi 3G. It comes in at about $100 less than the Motorola Xoom, which does 4G under Verizon, 3G, and Wi-Fi. So what we have here is just the two tablets. The first test we want to do is to do landscape and portrait mode.
So these devices are both capable of doing landscape and portrait via the orientation gyroscope inside. So I'm going to see if I can zoom out a touch more so we have some room.
Okay.
Here we go.
So this is in portrait mode, and we're going to put it into, or landscape mode, and we're going to put them into portrait mode starting now.
Oh, that was a little delay on this side. So let's do another one here.
Okay,
and
put it back to portrait or landscape mode.
So you can see the Galaxy, sorry, not the Galaxy, the Motorola Xoom is actually taking a little bit longer to do landscape and portrait than the iPad is.
Yeah. So it looks like the iPad is winning heads over tails.
Definitely has a win with the iPad in terms of its automatic orientation adjustments.
Yes, so the Motorola Xoom's lacking right now. This could be addressed perhaps in a future firmware update, but as it stands right out of the box, a clear decisive winner is the Apple iPad. The next thing that we want to do is doing YouTube videos. Now, both of these devices are not shipped with Flash, although this is running the Android 3.0 operating system Honeycomb, and this is working the current version of iOS. Flash should be compatible with the Motorola Xoom in the coming weeks via an over-the-air update, but here now, right out of the box, March 2nd, 2010, this is what the situation is like. So let's take a look at YouTube videos, and we'll see how the YouTube player differs, as well as how videos play.
So as expected, they both boot up very fast. In fact, the Xoom just booted up a whole, you could see almost a grid of videos, and you get this kind of, I would say, concave curvature of videos that you can kind of slide along here. It's kind of a neat animation.
It does, and the iPad does not.
It has just the standard list.
Yeah, the standard scrolling list. So I would say just from the YouTube interface, really like with the Xoom that they're doing.
Definitely.
And you definitely see that on other facets too, which we'll show you as time goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a Good e-reader video. So we'll just go to Good e-reader in the search bar, and I see you already beat me.
And well, it was already remembered. I don't want to take credit for that.
Okay.
Although Marcus wasn't looking, so shh.
Okay, so let's do the Pocket Edge review. This seems to be a review that we do a lot of head-to-head with.
All right. I'm just gonna mute mine. I think it is already. Hello and welcome to. There you go.
Okay, so is there any way to get that full size?
Oh, there is.
Okay, so this is the same video playing head-to-head right now. And what do you see so far?
You know, I am actually liking the iPad a little bit more for videos. It just looks, if I get a top-down view, it just looks a little bit crisper.
I think I'm in agreement as well.
I'm not talking about there's no artifacting or lagging or blurring when the images are moving on the video itself, but I just think the iPad looks a little bit smoothed out, and just looks a lot clearer than the Motorola Xoom does.
I agree. Despite the fact that I think that the Motorola Xoom does actually have better resolution, 1280
by 800.
Yeah, and the Apple iPad has 1024 by 768.
Exactly. So you see that even though the resolution is a little bit greater on the Motorola Xoom, it does just seem like the video quality is just a touch better on the Apple iPad.
So there is a way to... It was sort of like half screen that we saw there.
Yeah, let's go to that. I think we go back once. There we go.
Yeah, so we can hit HQ and kind of go wide. And then we can kind of just like double click or whatever to see that. Go. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't really look like that the Motorola Xoom wins on just straight YouTube playing as far as just pure quality, and we are playing the same video, the same resolution, so there's really nothing that differs from device to device. So looks like the iPad not only wins in portrait and landscape mode and quicker being able to do that, but it is looking like it does YouTube videos a little bit better. Not to say that the Xoom does it poorly,
no, exactly.
but just head to head it does look a little bit crisper and cleaner.
I mean, from our naked eye here in the Goody Reader Studio, we're not saying that the difference is gigantic, but it is a noticeable difference. I mean, they're both good. It's just the iPad is a little bit better for the videos.
Okay, so
cool.
There's the head-to-head test. And again, we're not leaning towards one device over the other. This is just a true head-to-head comparison.
Exactly.
So the next thing we want to do is let's look at the Books application.
Okay, and we have Aldeco on here.
Or let's load up just the default books because
right.
That has better page turns animations.
Alright, so let's just choose Pride and Prejudice.
Sure.
Alright, so you see both devices are laid out much like a book would be laid out in these 2 pages with bind kind of animation. So
right.
Let's see.
So this is the iBooks application. It did not come with the iPad. This is a free download from iTunes, whereas with the Motorola Xoom, the Books application is integrated right into it. Now you can see that with, let's just turn pages and just sort of show.
Oh. So both have that page animation
where you can kind of peek on what's the next side of the page.
Get to a place where you have both sides there. There we go. Any one of those.
Whoops.
Oh, it's catching up. Yeah, so they're both very good for this fun animation they put into the device. It's really nice. It's like you're reading the book. It's very interesting.
Now let's try bringing it into portrait mode.
All right. Okay. You see, it took a little bit longer for the Motorola Xoom to process it all.
But you can do the same thing. You can peek what's on the next page.
Same with this, except it's funny the way that the device turns it. It's kind of interesting because this one turns it kind of pushing outwards, whereas the iPad, it's almost as if it's grabbing it.
Yeah.
So they both have.
So let's turn it back to landscape mode, and let's just turn page turn speed to see.
I don't think page turn speed is going to be any significance, but let's put these things head to head, shall we?
Yeah.
So I guess on 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're both pretty much exactly the same. They both have animations on, so not like one is not using as much processor as the other. They both have pretty much same page turns.
So this is the default library that the iPad has with the iBooks application. And this is how the default library looks.
So once again, you get that kind of concave curving display, which is actually very nice.
Yeah, once we were to have more books, it would get that. So I like this display, having them side by side, and kind of like this display. Like
there's nothing wrong with the virtual shelf, but I just think it's really neat how they're doing this whole they're really putting animations in everything they do in the Motorola Xoom.
Right.
So everything kind of curves
So
like that.
let's hit the shop and just see what the shop experience looks like. So it looks like they drive you to the Android market, which on Honeycomb there is a books tab on it, so you can shop for books. And on the regular Android market, if you have a smartphone or if you have another tablet that is running anything less than Honeycomb, you'll just see Android apps. But if you have the web version of the Android market, you'll actually have the books tab there. But that's only if you live in the United States. So if you click store on the iPad, it's the same thing. You kind of get flipped to a new, you get flipped to like an iTunes-esque interface where you can buy books, and they'll automatically get set to the shelf. So although books on the Android, it's still fairly new, so you can kind of see that with the default one, this is sort of like the default category it gets put to. So you can see that you do have a little bit of a slicker design. But this is more or less maintaining the iTunes layout. And again, the Google layout is a bit new, and they don't really have a ton of books there yet. But keep in mind that you're not obligated to shop with this books application. This is just what it's bundled with. Of course, you can feel free to download Kobo, Amazon Kindle Reader, Sony Reader for Android. So basically any company worth its salt makes Android applications, so you can do business with any other store.
So what would you say for the winner of the reading experience?
I would almost say that it's a tie.
I would call that a definite tie as well. They both have animations. They both turn pages very, very quickly. They both have the same contrast levels. I wouldn't give it to either one.
Although the one thing I'd like to point out is that side-loading books, you can side-load books in iBooks, so you can load your own books into there, whereas with the books application, you can't side-load books into there. You would actually have to use a program called Eldico, and it's a free download from the Android market. Although it doesn't have the nifty page turns animation that the books program has, Eldico does allow you to sideload books in, and what sideloading means is basically hooking it up to your computer via USB and copying EPUB books that you have bought or downloaded from other sources, or if you're going to be able to use Adobe Digital Editions to import bought books or bought books into it. So I would say it's a tie as far as
the reading
experience, although there is a bit of a different experience as far as shopping and buying books with those types of applications. Definitely. But that's not what we were testing.
No.
The next thing we want to do is let's test Angry Birds head-to-head and see if you see any difference. Now, the Motorola Xoom is working on a dual-core processor, whereas the Apple iPad is using a single-core processor.
You have to just turn the whole thing around.
Yeah.
It's not going to let you orientate it. See, this loaded very quickly.
Yeah, so you saw right away sort of the Xoom beat it out in terms of processing. So let's play at the same time, I guess. Let's just click on this at the same time and see how it loads.
Oh, well, they load pretty quickly.
So we'll hit 2.
All I have available is 2, so they both load very quickly. Scrolling is pretty much the same.
You see,
you can pinch and zoom to change to view your battlefield and
whereas
such.
You can't.
You have to pinch on that one. Yeah, you're already zoomed in.
But it looks like this is the most zoom that you can get on it. Whereas what's the most zoom that you can get on that? Looks like the birds are really fat on here, but this is about the most that you can zoom in on here.
So you can actually get a good judge of how close things are to each other, stuff like that. And this is just one game, mind you, so there are definitely some differences in the game itself here.
Yeah, so this is just like kind of an indication not only with how it ranks up with the iPad, but how a lot of games work on the Motorola Xoom, where you can pinch and zoom a little bit deeper than you could on the iPad.
And you'll notice that the Motorola Xoom scored a 52,350, whereas the iPad scored a solid 5,200. So just gonna give a little stretch here. Nick on the
snap
on the Motorola Xoom.
Thumbs up, indeed.
So with the gaming experience, I wouldn't really say any one of them did better than the other than to say this one loaded up faster.
Right.
That's really the only thing I could see that
And
was...
it did also allow you to zoom in,
Right.
but that's just mainly because it's two different operating systems.
Right.
You have iOS and Android allowed just a little bit more flexibility
Exactly.
as well as pinching and zooming on that game in particular. Now, the Motorola Xoom did ship with some games that almost gave you a 3D experience, whereas with iOS, it's very limited games on that can actually do it. But again, we're not really testing out, games side by side because they have different games. But just to show you quickly.
Oh, there we go, the close button.
So this is an example of an Android game in 3D, and this was actually shipped with the Xoom. So you don't really see these sort of super high quality Pseudo 3 games on the iPad. Of course, you do have Chaos Rings and Rage by id Software looks really good. But it's sort of hard to fault the Motorola Xoom in terms of some bundled games that come with it, because obviously the iPad doesn't come with any bundled games at all. So this game in particular really shows off the Motorola Xoom's capability to play a 3D game in real time with no lag while having a ton of multitask applications open at the same time.
Exactly. So with the preloaded games and just the flexibility of everything and the load speeds, that alone, not to say the iPad is not game friendly, the Apple market has far greater games than the Android market, but
yes.
In this particular comparison, I would have to slightly lean towards the Motorola Xoom.
I concur. It allowed, especially with just showing Angry Birds comparison, that you were able to zoom in more than you could with Angry Birds on iOS and Apple.
Exactly.
And games like this really showcase the Tegra 2 processor, that you have 2 cores and you also have a lot of RAM in this to be able to actually play high capability games. So the next thing that we want to do is show off the web browsing experience. So we're going to be able to use the default WebKit browser that comes with it.
So far it's looking like the Apple iPad is sitting at 2 wins and 1 tie, whereas the Xoom is at the 1 tie and the 1 win. So this browsing experience could definitely be the make it or break it for the Xoom.
Well, we still have a few tests to go, but right now things aren't looking that bad. So let's first do keyboard speed. If you wanted to type in something like in the web browser.
Oh, okay.
Or actually, let's just start at the same place. Google.com. Okay.
All right, what do we type in here?
We're going to go to a perennial favorite, Good e-reader. So we'll both type that in at the same time.
Okay.
Although we do type at different speeds, but you can see that they both loaded up pretty well. And we're going to click on the second thing there. It says blog.
I didn't notice any lag or anything or any delay in typing at all.
And it looked like the Motorola Xoom rendered this out faster. But just to do a comparison, let's go down to like the second article here, the JP Morgan tablet PC forecast. On 3, we'll click that and we'll actually see what loads up faster. Now keep in mind, folks, that we are in the same Wi-Fi connection. We don't have any other devices on the network. No device is actually running faster than the other as far as Wi-Fi. So on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh. So it got there faster, but they both kind of caught up to each other. So
I would say the Xoom loaded it up faster.
It traveled to the site a lot quicker, but in terms of getting everything displayed, didn't look like there was too much of a difference there.
Okay, now let's test pinching and zooming within the web browser and just see how that looks. Now this is something that the iPad's known for, is the pinching and zooming factor. You can see it's very flexible.
Exactly.
It goes very fast.
So to see the Motorola Xoom performing like this up against the iPad, which is just, just flourishes in this category, it's just
Yeah,
it's a lot to say about the Motorola Xoom.
I would say pinching and zooming is pretty well almost the same as far as being able to zoom in pretty close, to be able to zoom all over the place. And so that's no small feat to be able to really match the zoom in terms of, or the Apple iPad in terms of pinching and zooming. They've really had set the bench mark in terms of people being able to try to emulate this sort of quickness and speed, as well as being able to pinch and zoom without things scrolling to the top automatically or hitting links.
That's what I've noticed in a lot of other of those tablets we've reviewed, that they would just, wherever your finger would cross, it would randomly click links here and there, and that was a big problem, whereas these two seem to have no problem at all.
Let's try just scrolling up and down and seeing things, how they load. So let's just scroll up. So you can see with the zoom, it actually shows you everything, whereas with the Apple iPad, you can kind of catch some blank spots as you're going up and down.
You
so
do see some grid showing up on the page as it tries to load, whereas as fast as I want to go with the zoom, there seems to be absolutely no delay or lag. It really does keep up with your finger. And
I think I really like that. I would have to give the web browsing experience, I think, to the Motorola Xoom.
Definitely.
It loaded things up slightly faster. The pinching and zooming compared to the iPad was more or less exactly the same, but when you fast scroll with the iPad, you do see some background grid action that sort of takes you out of that fluid experience. You can see as I was doing it really fast, you see nothing but grid. I would have to give this to the Xoom. So
definitely. So that about ties it up as for right now.
Yeah. So let's check out how pictures look on each one. Now, we know that the Xoom does have better resolution than the Apple iPad, but pictures and showing the same pictures, this is really how we would see.
So I'm going to go to Images, and we apparently have the same pictures coming here.
I think we more or less
loaded
have the same
ones here. Alright, so we have a couple landscape pictures, just general landscape pictures we have here. That last one's exactly the same.
So I don't know if it's come across in the video, but it's almost, the iPad's almost showing them off a little bit better.
It does seem that way. I wonder if there's something we can do with the contrast, because it just looks like the brightness is, the contrast is higher, especially on this last picture here. You can tell you get the dark browns in the cliff, whereas this one, everything's really bright. So,
and we do have the ambient light sensor off. Maybe let's try turning that off in the settings and seeing if that has an outcropping, or if that's determining it, because we do have studio lights in this environment here.
Definitely.
So it may be playing tricks with the ambient light sensor.
So screen, let's. Oh, that's auto rotate screen.
Brightness. Maybe let's try turning that off.
It still looks, yeah, it does appear that the iPad is displaying the picture a little bit better.
It does. It's sometimes hard to see these sort of things like in video. But let's take a look at this picture. Do you have this picture?
I might have that picture.
Yeah.
That's not it. Oh, this one. There we go. This is the same picture.
Yeah, so you can see that the iPad has... let's try to put this up to the camera. You can see that this has darker browns. You can see the sky white. And you can kind of see like richer colors here. Whereas, let's look at the Xoom.
The Xoom looks just
a little bit washed out.
Yeah. A little bit lighter. Looks like the contrast is a little bit off at the moment.
Yeah, so even just putting them sort of side by side like this, it kind of, you see sort of the darker tones right here than you do on the Xoom.
Exactly.
So from pictures, we'd have to give it to the iPad.
Definitely.
In terms of colors. Now, this may be some settings, but we haven't really influenced the settings on the iPad either. So this is sort of like what we're dealing with the default. And you guys did see that we did turn off the ambient light sensor, and we did turn off everything and having the brightness set up. But still, the pictures did look a little bit washed out. In terms of music, let's just turn up the iPod experience. And this is sort of what we have for music. Now, we're not going to test music, but this is how the music experience looks. Let's look at how the music experience looks on Xoom.
Oh.
So you can see on the Xoom...
Once again, they're pulling up these beautiful animations with their programs. Look at that.
So you can see pictures and albums, whereas...
You're pushing stuff away. See, look at that.
You know, you can look at albums and things like that here. It's tab-driven, whereas I kind of dig that the way that the Xoom is organizing its music library.
Definitely, and it changes from selection to selection, as you see. As I move it, the background changes as well, so it's now red and beige and such. So it's really nice. I really like the way they laid this out.
Me too. I would say for like the musical layout, I'd have to give it to the Xoom, just because it's just not a novelty or a gimmick factor, but like legitly, it's nice with this 3D effect like they did in YouTube videos, like they do in books, that making the process a little bit more visceral.
So it looks like we're all tied up for the test, unless you want to leave it as a tie or try to find a tiebreaker.
I think this is mainly everything that I wanted to show.
Definitely.
I do know that the Android experience allows you to customize a richer experience by adding widgets, by adding live wallpapers, and this is something that the iPad does not do. You can't really add live wallpapers. When you scroll from side to side, it's the same image. The background's not changing, whereas with the Xoom, it does allow you to have a tighter approach.
You see we have a live wallpaper going now. And it's still, nothing's lagging. You still have everything nice and smooth in the background, and
yeah,
it's just very, very nice to have live wallpapers. And once again, you get this curving home screen, whereas the iPad, you get the windows, you get the little slates, but I mean, not to say it's not smooth. It's very smooth on the iPad. Probably one of the smoothest we've seen for a home screen. But it's really nice how you get all these nice effects and still you suffer no lag, and it's just beautiful home screen.
Yeah, certainly the Motorola Xoom does take Google Android to a whole new level with its built-in stats and hardware capabilities. It does have things that the iPad doesn't, like a micro USB port. It does have an SD card.
Front-facing camera, rear-facing camera.
Yeah, and that's something that the iPad 1 doesn't have. And with the iPad 2, it does have cameras,
exactly.
But although they're very feeble, the Motorola Xoom has a 5 megapixel back-facing camera, HD, whereas the iPad 2 has nothing like that at all. So it'll be interesting to match up the iPad 2 and the Motorola Xoom, but I would say it's pretty well a tie.
Definitely.
But Android is more flexible in terms of you being able to determine your experience, from backgrounds to wallpapers to live wallpapers, to be able to use things like Flash. The dual camera certainly is very good. So I would probably lean personally more towards the Motorola Xoom in terms of overall flexibility. It didn't do some things like resolute pictures tremendously well, but I think with setting up some proper settings and things, you might be able to get better quality, and the Apple iPad did win in terms of being able to
display videos and pictures a lot better with its display, and it's just these are both really great devices. We're not saying, you know, even if one of them did win, that wouldn't say that the other one was terrible.
Yeah.
These are both just top-of-the-line devices. You'd be perfectly happy with either one of these.
Either one of these would be a tremendously good investment. And the Motorola Xoom should see a more outside the U.S. release probably in about a month and a half or so. So again, the date's March the 2nd, 2011, and this has been a comparison between the Apple iPad, which really set the bar sold the most units in 2010 and was a runaway success. And now we have the very best tablet that has been released since the iPad, in my opinion, and this is the Premier 2011 version. A lot of bells and whistles. The hardware is super solid. The software is really stable and robust. Again, no crashes, anything like that. And it does allow a lot of 3D like effects, not only in the games, but in things like Google Maps and so on. And you can see that we have Google Maps on as the background.
The live wallpaper, and it's taking a couple seconds to load up and everything, but it does definitely look nice.
Yeah. So for a comparison between the Apple iPad and the Motorola Xoom, which basically resulted in a tie through our tests, this is Marcus.
This is Nick.
And everybody take care.